Welcome back to the Darin Show. It's a book review, a music book review. Wait a minute. It is a music book review. Yeah, okay, so I, as you know, do a music channel, and this is a book. So you can't listen to the book, but you know what you can listen to? A Spotify playlist to accompany this book. This is why doing a review. So this is a book called DEEPCUTS, and it is the debut novel from Holly Brickley. Just came out last year. It's set in the 2000s, and music plays a big part in the book, and the chapters are titled after songs. I think the first chapter is Sarah Smile. Sarah Smile. And the Hall & Oates song gets a discussion. What I love about this book, and I'm going to read to you what it's apparently about and maybe some reviews or whatever. This is a book that I wish I would have written. In fact, I had an idea sort of like this, but this woman weaves music and songs into a love story, a life, her life, going to college, meeting people, dealing with her mom and dad, dealing with finding work and that kind of thing. And also, there's a song that is in that time period with her. And then we get a deep discussion regarding that song. Sometimes with another character, sometimes just her. She, as part of her job, is a music critic, music writer. And so there's some of that. But a lot of it comes up in conversations that she has with other characters in the book, and they have disagreements, as you do when you're talking about music. And she might be like, oh my gosh, I love this song. And somebody else will be like, that's the worst song by that person, and what are you, crazy? But that's what I love about it, because I have thought that I want to go back, and maybe I still will because it'll be mine. I want to do a book of music of my life and talk about songs that I still remember that are attached to a memory. As you know, we have those. Where was I when this song was playing? Or what does this song put me in the mind of? And it always works. So it's a Friday night in a campus bar in Berkeley, fall of 2000, and Percy Marks is pontificating about music again. Hall & Oates is on the jukebox, and Percy, who has no talent for music, just lots of opinions about it, can't stop herself from overanalyzing the song. Now, we all know people like that. I mean, even if you do know music, or even play music, you'll overanalyze things and drive people crazy, indulging what she knows to be her most annoying habit. But something is different tonight. The guy beside her at the bar, fellow student Joe Morrow, is a songwriter, and he could listen to Percy talk all night. Joe asks Percy for feedback on one of his songs, and the results kick off a partnership that will span years, ignite new passions, because they do end up writing songs together, in them both, and set Joe on a path to indie rock stardom. And that's kind of cheesy, sure. But it also bruises Joe's ego and traps Percy in a role she resents. How long can Percy ignore the roars of her heart and of her own unique talent to protect their thrilling collaboration? Moving from Brooklyn bars to San Francisco dance floors, DEEPCUTS examines the nature of talent, obsession, belonging, and above all, our need to be heard. So that's the blurb. That's what it's basically about, so you get an idea. And yeah, it kind of sounds a little bit like a soap opera, whatever kind of thing that I normally maybe wouldn't be interested in, even though, let's face it, I read the Twilight books. I mean, I remember when I was thinking, hey, LaCroix, by the way, I don't have any sponsorships or anything, but LaCroix, if you're out there. But I remember I was reading the Twilight books and thinking to myself, wow, these are apparently aimed at 14-year-old girls. And then I just went ahead and kept reading because, what are you going to do? Let me reiterate that that's not what I got out of the book. In fact, I probably really didn't pay too much attention to the parts with the love story. And yes, her and Joe kind of back and forth. And I mean, that's kind of interesting. We get a little bit of her insight and her thoughts. But I just really love the music discussions. And then I thought to myself, I wanted to go through this book Deep Cuts. Got mine at the library, as you know, I'm the library guy. So Deep Cuts, and then I also listened to it as an audio book, which was great. But I got the book because I thought, well, maybe in the back there'll be some sort of list of these songs, and that'd be great. You know, I'll take a couple photos of those pages and you know, look into those songs more, because there were songs that she mentions that I hadn't heard of, and that led me to find them and play them, and then I could get into the discussion along with the characters in the book. But guess what? I went to deepcutsbook.com, and there is actually a Spotify playlist out there with all the songs that are talked about and mentioned in the book. Hall & Oates, Sarah Smile, Surf's Up by the Beach Boys. By the way, that got me into a whole deep dive. If you don't know the story of the Beach Boys, really... Speaking of the Beach Boys, I'm drinking a mojito flavor. It's water, but it tastes like a mojito. But the Beach Boys, you know, after something like Pet Sounds or whatever, and things went crazy. They definitely weren't doing fun anymore. And so then they put out this album, Surf's Up, that was not a surf record. So that was interesting. And she talks about that. Neutral Milk Hotel is a band that you'll hear people talk about from the 90s that should have been bigger. Fight the Power by Public Enemy, No Doubt, Total Hate 95. There's a big discussion about Gwen Stefani. The Kinks, Strangers, The Millennium, To Claudia on Thursday, Jimmy Cliff, I Can See Clearly Now, Buddy Holly and the Crickets, Every Day, Last Days of Disco by Yo La Tengo, Gravity Rides Everything, Modest Mouse, Weird Divide by the Shins. There's a lot of discussion of the Shins in this book, and so that's interesting. Just Like a Woman, the Nina Simone version, a cover of the Bob Dylan, and in the story, the protagonist, Percy, actually hears somebody talking about, or she has a discussion with someone about the Bob Dylan song, Just Like a Woman, and she goes home, dials it up on the interwebs, and instead it brings up the Nina Simone version, which she had never heard before, and that made me go and bring up the Nina Simone version, and it's completely different. Nina Simone is singing the song straight the way Dylan does to start out, but in the last verse, she turns it on herself, and so she's, you know, I ache just like a woman, and I break just like a woman, instead of whereas the beginning of the song, she was, you know, she. So that's pretty cool. Never Is a Promise by Fiona Apple, talked about quite a bit in here. Let Down, Radiohead, some good Radiohead discussions in here. Erykah Badu, Bag Lady, Interpol, NYC, Leonard Cohen's Chelsea Hotel No. 2. See, here again, this book, it's like one of those things where like lunch and learn or whatever, somebody feeds you something good to get you some information. So the book is written, it's got this little, fictional story going on, love story between these people. I guess that kind of drags you in and everything. But the discussions are very educational. I learned some things. So Chelsea Hotel No. 2 by Leonard Cohen, which is on this playlist, is discussed in a nice section. That song is about Janis Joplin with Leonard Cohen in a hotel. And then she relates that to other lovers of Leonard Cohen who had written songs about him, or women that had written songs in response to that. Actually, Lana Del Rey did a cover of Chelsea Hotel No. 2, which is interesting because in the song, Leonard Cohen's version, well, he wrote it. So both versions, though, he says, we were laying in bed and you were giving me head, which works both ways, of course. So when Lana Del Rey sings it, it's like, yeah, okay. Leonard Cohen doesn't do the same thing for me. But anyway, it's about Janis Joplin, and it's kind of a really sad sort of song, and how he's like, he doesn't think about her anymore. But then from there, she goes into talking about Joni Mitchell, and so Graham Nash, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Joni Mitchell were together, Graham Nash wrote the song Our House was about an afternoon that he spent with Joni Mitchell, and they lived together. So A Case of You was a song that Joni Mitchell wrote about Graham Nash because of their breakup. Basically, she says, I could drink a case of you and still be on my feet, you know, like not be overwhelmed or whatever. So back to that's a discussion in the book. So then back to the playlist. A Case of You by Joni Mitchell, Our House by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Then Sam Cooke, Bring It On Home to Me. I believe, again, here's another thing that, another part of the book that educated me. She talked about the fact that Sam Cooke wasn't just a vocalist, like a lot of people of those times, or even later in the Motown or whatever, but he wrote the songs. And so when he was singing it, that was him coming out, you know, he wasn't trying to interpret someone else's words. So that's a nice discussion in here. Hey Ya by Outkast. She talks about the group Outkast and how they had sort of become separated by that time, for lack of a better term, and did these 2 albums and then released them both at the same time and released singles. There was like Speaker Box, Love Below, Hey Ya, I Like the Way You Move was the single from Big Boy. But so those 2 guys split up. They essentially did 2 solo albums, but they still wanted to act like or feel like they were together as Outkast, the group. So released these 2 albums that were really different in style, just as the guys were, and released 2 Outkast albums. So I don't know. Anyway, that's an interesting, there's a big discussion about that in here. PJ Harvey, You Said Something. This made me look up You Said Something. It's a great PJ Harvey. Heart of the Matter by Don Henley. It's got a really great discussion of that. Running Up That Hill, Kate Bush. Misshapes by Pulp. Everybody Needs Somebody to Love, Wilson Pickett. I love the discussion of that. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I really loved this book because I loved listening to the arguments and the discussions about songs and artists, and which, of course, I had an opinion about. What Makes You Think You're the One by Fleetwood Mac. The Weakness in Me, Joan Armatrading. LCD Sound System, Someone Great. Panda Bear, Comfy in Nautica, and The Knife Heartbeats. And a lot of those, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them serve as chapter titles and sort of go along with the story. You know, This Side of Blue as an example. So if you're a music lover or a book lover, if you're interested in music, either one, I like this. This got some rave reviews. Even Cameron Crowe, I read on the internet, Cameron Crowe liked it, former Rolling Stone music writer and director of movies like Jerry Maguire, Say Anything, and of course Almost Famous, about his working for Rolling Stone. So if he liked it and I liked it, I mean, you ought to at least give it a shot, right? So check out Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley, and if you go to deepcutsbook.com, you can play through the Spotify playlist, and it has all the songs that they talk about in the book. So there you go. Thanks for watching The Darin Show. Have a great what have you.